massive storm has killed at least 34 people in the United States.
As in the highest number of fatalities, as you said, is in New York State, where some were found in cars.
Your winter storm is impacting millions of Americans as it brings bitter cold temperatures, blizzard conditions, and flooding to much of the country.
Hey, in this video, I'm going to talk about how winter storm disrupt the US and Canada. So before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for upcoming updates. Even Canadians accustomed to the vagaries of Arctic weather systems contended with a long list of extremes, including cold that freezes flesh in minutes. Every province and territory in Canada issued an emergency weather warning on Saturday, as winter weather left thousands without power, grounded hundreds of flights, and caused the pileup of dozens of cars on a highway in Ontario. Even Canadians accustomed to the cold and the vagaries of Arctic weather systems found themselves contending with a lengthy list of extreme conditions that, in addition to heavy snow and hypothermia-inducing temperatures, also included storm surges, ice fog, strong winds, and so-called ice bombs. Across Canada, there were 425 weather warnings, an almost unprecedented number, said David Phillips, a senior climatologist with Environment Canada, the National Meteorological Agency. There were thousands of power outages, and the impact was everywhere on the busiest travel time of the year. Mr. Phillips said, "Wind chill readings," he said, dipped to -50 degrees Celsius, about -58 Fahrenheit. Such cold, he added, freezes flesh in minutes. The weather across Canada is part of the same system afflicting much of the United States, which has disrupted Christmas travel and celebrations and plunged cities across the country into record cold. The United States on Saturday recorded at least a dozen deaths, and at one point, more than 1.5 million households were without power. In Canada, more than 500,000 households remained without power as of Saturday morning, according to PowerOutage.com, an online data collector. Eastern Canada, particularly Quebec, has been the hardest hit, accounting for almost 70% of outages. In Sept-Rivières, a sparsely populated region in Quebec, nearly every customer was without power. "It's not over yet," said Philippe Archambault, a spokesman for Hydro-Quebec, the public utility that manages electricity across the province. "We still have very strong winds along with really heavy snow. Right now, we still have around 300,000 people without electricity due to the storm that hit Quebec in the last 2 days," he said, adding that more than 500 teams were working to restore power. "We are working around the clock." Heavy snow in Ontario caused slick roads and whiteout conditions that on Friday led to a 60-vehicle pileup on a highway from London to Sarnia. Photographs showed the twisted wreckage of cars and trucks along Highway 402. No deaths were reported, but the Ontario Provincial Police closed the highway to traffic on Friday and in a Twitter post warned drivers not to travel unless necessary. On the West Coast, bus and ferry service was suspended in Vancouver, and 2 major bridges in British Columbia were closed as freezing rain and ice made them unsafe. The authorities in British Columbia shut the Port Mann and Alex Fraser bridges because of the threat of ice bombs, masses of ice that accumulate on the bridge's cables and can fall on cars. "We have transitioned this morning into freezing rain, and our concern right now is there is traces of ice accumulating on the cable stays, the cable on the bridges themselves," Ashok Body of the province's Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure told CTV News. Hundreds of air travelers had their Christmas plans upended as flights across Canada, including at the busiest airports, were canceled. Multiple flights from Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto were grounded, and WestJet, one of the country's leading providers, preemptively canceled flights at airports in Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia. Amid the severe weather, 54 flights out of Toronto Pearson Airport, the busiest in Canada, had already been canceled early Saturday, with scores more delayed, according to the airport's departure board. At its worst, as many as 1.8 million properties were without power in the U.S., with thousands of flights canceled and delayed. But the number of homes without power is now around 150,000, although more than 55 million Americans remained under wind chill alerts on Sunday. In Canada, at least 140,000 homes are without electricity, most of them in the provinces of Ontario and Quebec. 4 people were killed on Christmas Eve after a bus rolled over in icy conditions on Highway 97C near Loon Lake, about 200 miles east of Vancouver. The local healthcare authority, Interior Health, told Canada's CBC that 52 people were sent to the hospital and 36 needed further treatment. By early afternoon on Christmas Day, 8 people remained in the hospital, 2 of them in a serious condition. In Quebec, more than 200,000 customers were without power on Saturday, with the Capitale Nationale around Quebec City and Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean regions hit hard. Hydro-Quebec said it was hopeful about conditions improving throughout the day as crews continued restoration work. Highways around Montreal were blocked by multi-vehicle pileups on Saturday. Across the province, roads were covered in ice and snow, with zero visibility in some places. Environment Canada is warning blizzards, strong winds, and other stormy weather in parts of Ontario and Quebec will likely continue into Christmas. However, there are now rainfall warnings for most of Vancouver Island, Metro Vancouver, and the Fraser Valley. And the Provincial River Forecast Center issued a flood watch for the Lower Mainland and Central, West, and South Vancouver Island, including Victoria, on Saturday. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for upcoming amazing and informative